Oh, welcome back.
And we're back.
And we're back. We're back from the nebulous nowhere space because the last episode ended.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Dank Ass Stubs. It's a dank ass Wednesday afternoon on a dank ass part of town.
A dank ass summer day.
It's like
it's not dank. It's actually kind of arid.
We gotta make our own book. Did you ever read as a kid the Dark Room?
Oh fuck, that room. Yeah, that room was really dark.
That was so dark and it scared the shit out of me. We need to make our own version
of a dank
room. In the dank room in a dank house. There was a dank shelf.
Just this horribly moist, drippy house.
This is a waterlogged house.
Exactly.
It's like a house in a part of town that's been under ill repair.
It's just after a flood.
After a flood of some kind, not like a truly disastrous flood, but enough that like everything kind of still waterlogged.
You ever see that photo of that dude like standing in his basement and he's in water that's up to his waist and he's just got this sad look on his face with his arms crossed? He posted that photo on Facebook with the caption, "My basement had got no business looking like this."
No basement, lock your shit up.
Yeah.
So welcome back to Dank Ass Stubs. We're tooling around, man. This is the part where we break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
We're tweaking, man. We're tweaking out. We're doing drugs. No, that's not what
we're not doing drugs.
We're not doing drugs.
I've never drugged in my life.
Except for steroids.
Yeah. Shut up.
No, I'm kidding. Not you.
I'm natty.
Natty Ice.
Obviously.
Oh. By the way, Dank Ass Stubs is brought to you by Frank Ass Tubs, Swank Ass Rubs. If anything is going to change on this show, it is not going to be that.
Yeah. Spices, marinades for your beef and your poultry.
Beef, your poultry. Pork if you swing that way.
Pork, yeah. If you aren't keeping kosher. My name is Aaron.
My name is Jerry. Sorry, we have a hooker in here.
No, we don't.
A hookah.
We have a hookah.
Yeah, this is new.
Yeah.
This is new. This is not new. This is like round 3. Like I've only ever had done. How do you refer to what's the lingo? Do you do a hookah or do you just like enjoy one?
I have no idea.
Because it's not a drugs. It's just kind of an experience.
I mean, it's got nicotine, so in a sense, it.
Are you getting me high?
I didn't mean to.
Oh, okay. Nicoderm CQ. You can quit if you are a quitter. If you have the quitting gene.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, I know there's like a genetic component to addiction, but is there a genetic component to quitting specifically?
I don't think so.
If they isolated the fuck it gene, so if like somebody's very non-committal and just like kind of gives up on things, like they have that gene.
Yeah, you got the fuck it gene, and it can be managed.
Yeah,
but it's not. There's something you can do about it.
You're always going to live with a little bit of fuck it.
That's your Mr. Babadook living in the basement. You can only ever feed him scraps. He's never going to go away.
Yeah, feed him worms from the garden.
So yeah, we're tweaking out right now. We're beta testing for Dank Ass Stubs has gone pretty well.
Yeah.
We're working out some of the kinks, some of the bugs, taking in some valuable feedback.
Some of them saying awesome, keep doing this. Some of them saying this is boring.
Yeah. So we're gonna. In the next couple episodes, it seems like we're probably going to be experimenting with some things. Maybe introducing some new stuff as ideas come along. Because hey, these are off the cuffs, man.
Yeah.
These are
jazz solos.
Yeah. So it might be cool at some point to get to a point where we have like at least vague segments. I don't know what they would be. What are you watching this week?
Is this the segment?
It could be. What are you watching this week? Did you watch anything this week?
I
watched a lot of stuff this week.
This past week. God.
Well, I'm lying. I've watched a lot of stuff in the past few weeks that I feel like talking about. So.
I've been watching a lot of things the past few weeks, but in the past week or so, I've been busy. I had to arrange my life to get up to Palmdale again to finish a shoot and then come back from that.
Was it an Afro Man music video?
It was not. It was not an Afro Man music video. It was a tiny budget film.
Okay.
That maybe if the thing actually gets finished and released to the world, I feel like I will have a funny story to tell.
It'll be that thing people dig up later on.
Yeah, like Tom Hanks's Dungeons and Dragons movie.
He did a Dungeons and Dragons movie?
Yeah, back in the 80s during the whole satanic panic period where people were certain that doing Dungeons and Dragons would lead you to Satan.
I'm so happy that satanic panic is like a legitimate term of some kind.
Yeah, Tom Hanks was, as a lad, in a movie about some teenagers that got sucked into the occult via a weak stand-in for Dungeons and Dragons. I think was called Mazes and Monsters or something like that.
Ugh.
I never saw such a film, but it did happen. And apparently they're, like, now that Tom Hanks is an A-list actor, they've reissued that movie a few times in, like, bargain bin DVDs. And the cover shows Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon from the Da Vinci Code movies.
What? In
front of, like, a gothic castle with, like, a flying gargoyle in the background. So it looks like a totally different movie.
Okay, I'm going to Google this shit. What is it called?
I can't remember. I think if you just Google Tom Hanks Dungeons and Dragons Satan, you're either going to get something about the movie or a very weird conspiracy theory about Tom Hanks.
Hey, I mean, both would probably be amusing at best, or at least. I mean, that's interesting. So wait,
such was the Reagan years, man. It was what a time to be alive.
Oh yeah, hey Reagan. Sorry, I was just watching Wet Hot American Summer, first day at camp.
How is that?
It's funny as fuck. I mean, like, I quite enjoy the movie, and I quite enjoy that kind of. We were talking about this earlier today. I quite enjoy that brand of, like, really absurd comedy. So it's, you know, that appeals to me, and usually when I'm writing comedy, that's the kind of thing I like to write, or I just naturally end up writing. So, like, there's so much absurdity, and there's so many strange little jokes and asides and things. So I had a blast. I mean, it was everything is, it's kind of, scary to get excited about anything now, but, I've seen all 8 episodes of the show, and I had a blasty blast. They did it. They managed to stick the landing, and I think they approached it the right way, because they brought everybody back, and they have a lot of fun with the fact that these 8 episodes take place over one day, for the most part, and everyone is younger, but they're all 15 years older. And I think there's even a joke at some point. Somebody says, like, man, by the end of camp, we're gonna feel 15 years younger, like that. Because
I could stand to see the movie again because it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, and it's wacky, and it's, I don't know, it does its thing. It has the quality that I think is starting to be more appreciated now, because, like, it came out and it got really poor reviews. And
the movie or the show?
Oh no, the movie. The show I think is received better because the movie's respect and love for that movie has grown much over the years. And I've read a couple articles that sort of touched on that, as like maybe Wet Hot American Summer was just made at the wrong time, because that was 2001 it came out, and like, now we're seeing more of these comedy pieces that are, sort of referential to a different time and place. It's like, it's the summer coming of age, teen comedy, but just remixed and totally absurd. And now we also have things like The Spoils of Babylon, which is, a very distinct callback to a kind of, TV movie. And so now just these kinds of things are more in the cultural sphere, so that they're less out of left field.
Yeah, I think that could be a thing, because it's like, if you're parroting something that's very specific, like, the coming of age teen sex comedy set at a summer camp, that's such a specific thing. And Spoils of Babylon even more so. It's like, the 70s Pot Boiler miniseries of, about, like, kind of this overwrought family drama spanning generations. It's like, those are such specific things to lampoon.
Yeah.
So you have to have a culture like, like we have in a post-internet age, or where people are more appreciative of things that specific.
Yeah.
People are more interested in things that are that particular.
Yeah. Well, and, nostalgia is such a big thing now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm happy that Spoils of Babylon is done well, because I think that's a cool thing, because it's still funny. And it can also sort of open up a door, because, I gotta imagine maybe half the people, or a certain percentage at least of the people who have seen Spoils of Babylon specifically, you know, at least weren't around for what it's a reference to.
Yeah.
You know, or haven't seen a million of those. So it's like, you know, I watched some of those episodes with my folks, and it's like they were getting a kick out of it because they'd seen all those movies, and I was getting a kick out of it because they'd shown me some growing up. So it's like, you know, I didn't live through them, you know, like they did, and so we had some different perspectives, but we were still all able to enjoy it for what it was.
It was funny. I remember seeing Wet Hot American Summer, the movie, and it's weird. I could stand to see it again because it's like, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, you watch it just at home and you don't really get absorbed into it. So I could stand to watch that movie again. But I remember my closest point of reference to it was, oddly enough, Dazed and Confused, which was kind of a totally different sort of
I gotta see it. I gotta see some early Linklater.
Yeah.
Because I do love the Link.
I feel like Dazed and Confused is... I mean, there's early Linklater and stuff like Dazed and Confused, and then there's early Linklater and the stuff like Slacker.
Yeah, I guess.
And those are very different animals.
Yeah. Gotta get some early Link. Yeah.
And I appreciate when someone can really go off on a tangent of just absolutely absurd humor.
Yeah.
And really commit to it and really roll with it. Because, I mean, The Spoils of Babylon, for instance, like, there's a whole... They just roll with one character being a mannequin.
Yeah, it's just kind of... That's the thing that we were talking... Like, again, you guys weren't there, but we were talking about this earlier. Because we exist outside of these hour chunks.
I know, right?
It's like an animated shows now more and more, you know,
yeah.
We're embracing that, where it's like you have things like you were talking about Uncle Grandpa.
Yeah, I've only sampled bits of Uncle Grandpa, and most of... I think the biggest chunk of my exposure to Uncle Grandpa came from the Steven Universe crossover episode they did, which was just this really just front-loaded joke-gasm, that episode.
Okay.
It's just... So, I mean, I was been taken through Steven Universe. My girlfriend introduced me to the show, and I just binged that entire series. And it's a good fucking show.
All right.
But it gave me an intro to Uncle Grandpa beyond just the pilot short that I remember seeing way back when. And
College course. Intro to Uncle Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly. Uncle Grandpa 1.
Uncle Grandpa 91A.
Yeah.
The remedial course.
Yeah. If you didn't get enough Uncle Grandpa in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
Uncle Grandpa is a show where I don't know how much anyone could tolerate, like, big chunks of it, because I don't know what the show is like as a whole, but in the little distinct chunks I've gotten of it, I have to respect anything that is just that much of falling down the Dante's Inferno hole to visual gag hell.
Yeah.
But in a good way. I mean that in the best way.
Well,
Uncle Grandpa is just, like, aggressively in-your-face, anarchistic, and wacky, but in a very fun and very kind of sweet and endearing way.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that much of it, but from the...
It really does feel like Uncle Grandpa feels like being a kid and interacting with your wacky uncle.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is the guy who is so fun and so chaotic and so bizarre, and everything about him is just kind of crazy and exciting. And then years later, as an adult, you think, oh, he was an alcoholic, wasn't he? Except Uncle Grandpa assuages that ugly feeling, that ugly post-hoc sensation. We're just like, no, Uncle...
Maintains the whimsy.
It maintains the whimsy. Like, there are times when Uncle Grandpa will be in a room talking to somebody, and then a second Uncle Grandpa will just show up and continue Uncle Grandpa's dialogue. And then for, like, another few shots, there are two Uncles Grandpa. Just cuz. Just fucking cuz.
See, I love... when it comes to humor like that, when it comes to absurd humor, I love just cuz. And I'm not super deep into Adventure Time to where, like, it's... The point in Adventure Time I'm at, like, it's starting to get, you know, like, oh, like, here are some actual poignant things, but that's from the earliest, you know, viewings I've had, is what I loved about Adventure Time, was, like, there's a lot of stuff that happens just because somebody in the animation room or in the writer's room was like, well, you know, they're in this place, why don't we just put that in the background, because, I don't know, because it kind of makes sense, but sure, like, and Wet Hot American Summer has, you know, not, granted it's live action, so you can't do certain things, but there's something about having weird things happen, and just all the characters just continue as though that's how the universe works, and it's not weird to them. So it's fun. Like, I don't know, that humor really tickles me, and there's so much of that, and they jump back and forth between there's lots of visual gags, and then there are lots of outright silly, absurd gags. Like, there's this whole chase scene that just involves, like, impossible physics. Like, this guy's trying to hide from Ken Marino's trying to hide from Chris Maloney. And, like, he's very clearly under bed sheets. And Chris Maloney's looking around, like, really... Chris Maloney's so good in this. But he's looking around, and then he pulls the bed sheets out, and they do some kind of magic cut where he's just gone. And then he crawls out from over a bunk bed. And, like, certain things like that. There are times when, like, it'll tonally shift. Like, there's a subplot with Janeane Garofalo and Jason Schwartzman, who's not in the movie, but he's on the show. And it just becomes...
I can't imagine I can't even remember the last or most recent thing I saw with Janeane Garofalo in it.
Yeah, I know. And it was nice to see her again, although she seems like she has some work done. It always makes me sad. I don't know. But, like, there's this subplot with her and Jason Schwartzman, which is so funny because it just becomes a cop show. Like, not with all the tribes, but it's just, like, enough. It's like it's shot that way all of a sudden, and they're, like, saying the things those kinds of characters would say. Michael Cera shows up for some very funny lawyering.
Is he a kitty cat man, or no?
A kitty cat man?
Yeah, you don't remember the Tim and Eric bit where Michael Cera is the kitty cat man?
No. I haven't seen much Tim and Eric. I feel like now is the time where I would start to appreciate it. Because, like, I'd seen Tim and Eric on Cartoon Network, like, or on Adult Swim late at night, and I was always kind of creeped out by Tim and Eric.
Yeah, Tim and Eric is something that you do kind of have to gird your loins for. Because it does get aggressively... I mean... I didn't grow up like this, but I had one guy once tell me, it's like, what I love about Tim and Eric is, when I was a little kid, my family was really, like, really strapped for money, was really poor, and so most of the TV I watched as a kid was public access TV, which is all really unprofessional and slapdash, and oftentimes really creepy and really weird, and, just absolute maniacs get attracted to doing public access TV. And so because of that, watching Tim and Eric is hilarious to me because it's commenting and kind of parodying just how absurd and creepy and bizarre public access TV can be.
It's almost like public access, but if it was quite as weird as you remembered it.
Yeah.
It seems like. But yeah, no, I don't know. It tickled me to have that back, and it tickled me that they seem to nail it. Like, I mean, that's the kind of humor you can do where you can jam-pack jokes, and there are so many different characters, and there's so many subplots. And I'm hesitant because I don't want to give away jokes, because there's so many things that are funny to me. But
wet, hot summer in America.
And it translates well into a show, because they get a lot of mileage out of that alone, because it's like, once you get a couple episodes and it starts to catch up with you, you're like, wait a minute. So many things have happened, and it's only been like an hour. Like, and they start to, everything is very self-conscious in just the right way, where they start having fun with the fact that it seems like so much time has left and so many huge things have happened. And it's only been like, 4 or 5 hours, by the time certain shit starts to hit the fan, so to speak. So that's one of the things I've been...
And that's something that's hilarious to me, because it's like the fact that they're going to sustain this taking over the course of a summer by having every season be a whole day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
I hope. I would hope.
Just in the middle of season 2, they flash forward 5 years.
Yeah.
And just the rest of the series just continues from there.
See, the thing is, like, I saw that, and I saw that movie for the first time, not super recently, but more recently, and so I feel like I saw it at a better time to see it, whereas, like, it fits more, and so, it's like seeing this, I was like, oh, good, they did it, and now it's like, I would love more, but I also kind of would be afraid. It's like, I almost feel like taking a long time off is the way to make this keep working. Move the coals, my boy. And I also started on you guys will meet Charlie one day. But
Yeah.
on Charlie's recommendation, I've been getting into Mark Maron lately.
Oh, yeah?
I listened to first episode of his podcast I listened to.
His podcast of where he asks what is
the fuck?
What is the fuck?
What is the fuck? And why? Why is the fuck?
What?
I listened to his Obama episode, which is very interesting.
Really?
Yeah, his Obama. And now I'm working my way around. But I also started watching his show. The 2 seasons are on. The first 2 seasons are on the Netflix.
What's the Obama episode of his TV show like?
Oh, Obama didn't come on the show.
Oh, well, that's...
I don't think Obama came on the show.
That's lame.
But
he did, just do the audio?
But he did come to his garage in Highland Park.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's cool of Obama.
That's cool of the Obama.
You know, POTUS.
Of the POTUS. We're all into those acronyms now. POTUS and Scotus and FLOTUS now.
Scotus is terrible because all I can think of is scrotum.
Scotus sounds like a disease.
Yeah, I got the Scotus. I have to apply this cream.
Or it's like a colonial era disease specifically. It's something that you would only contract on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's
Laura, your father's contracted the Scotus. He's breathing his last now. You best come say your goodbyes.
It's one of those diseases that hasn't been a problem since then, and occasionally it'll pop up in the modern times, and it's like you just take these antibiotics and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But back in the Oregon Trail times, that would fuck up your whole colony, you know. Scotus, man. Scotus. That's my new shit, though. Now, instead of cool stuff, I tried to make Fridge catch on.
And we tried to make Myth happen.
I still want Myth to happen.
I feel like we just didn't... I think we got to be honest and admit that neither of us really had the will to really make this new slang work.
Yeah. Well, because, deep down...
But new slang is a song that will change your life if Natalie Portman catches you in a hospital waiting room and forces you to listen to it.
Is that from Garden State?
Exactly.
I've been really big... I guess this is just like the what have you been ingesting with your eyes and ears segment of the show.
Yeah. This whole episode is a, yo, check this out segment.
Exactly. I've been getting really big into Spoon lately. Spoon's a band from Austin, Texas.
I think people know who Spoon is.
Yeah. Spoon's fucking great. I picked up 4 of their albums. And Spoon...
BT Dubs, Erica's in the booth.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, you guys are talking on the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
You totally didn't realize.
I thought you guys were just, talking to each other. I didn't realize that you were actually...
Oh, you really didn't realize?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But I'm making chili.
Okay.
Erica's making mad chills.
Yeah, that's why I'm apologizing if there's background sounds. But
Eat a bowl of chili while you...
Now that I know. Okay, thank you.
Now Erica will make quiet chili.
Nah, eat a bowl of chili while you listen.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
this is now, the chili is the second screen, and this is a second screen experience. The screen being a bowl of chili.
I love that joke on BoJack Horseman.
Oh, cool. I love stupid shit like this. I love dumb bullshit like this.
But yeah, no, I was playing, I think I turned my camera on. It was just on my playlist, because I'd heard that song somewhere, and I was like, oh yeah. And I was driving Charlie home, and
it's a very funky track with some Bee Gees-esque folks.
Well, and Spoon traverses, I was listening to a Needle Drop review of their most recent album, which
Shouts out to the Fantano.
To the Fantano. Bananthony Mango here.
Slanthony Dunktano.
And he did a relatively favorable review of their most recent album. But he sort of described them as one of those bands that's like a reliable car. It's it's not necessarily super out there, but there is a lot of passion and there is a lot of personality and just creativity. It seems like they're always good at throwing something interesting in. It's okay, here's sort of a fuzzy I wasn't expecting this here. And especially on Kill the Moonlight, there's some out there choices that are really cool. There's one song that's driven by a beatbox.
Huh.
Just him just going and they turn that into a song.
Wow. There's
another song that builds on these different drum patterns that one has a flange on it. And so it becomes an instrument, a different instrument, even though it's a drum. So there's just lots of cool stuff going on. But getting back to the original point of why I brought up Spoon in this conversation.
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat.
It tickled me so because there is a song, I think it's Outlier, on They Want My Soul, which is their most recent record, where he says something along the lines of, I remember when you walked out of Garden State because you had taste, you had no time to waste. It was like, oh shit, Britt Daniel calling out Garden State.
Yeah, that movie.
I ain't seen Garden State. I gotta see a lot more movies, you know. I feel weird because, like, you know, this is Cinema Network.
I feel like if you're going to go into watching Garden State, do it to participate in the conversation.
To join the watering hole.
Yeah.
And join the water cooler many years too late.
And then make your judgment as to whether or not you like it or not. Because I feel like...
I'm afraid I'm going to like Garden State a lot. And I don't know why I would be afraid, but I am.
Garden State is one of those movies where it's like, I liked it when I was 14.
You saw it?
Yeah, I saw about that. I was like, I think I liked it when I was 14. I think I was 14 when I saw it. And I liked it all right, but I think as time has gone on, the movie probably hasn't, you know... I feel like... I don't think it's aged well, and I think it's like... I think the people... I don't know how to put it. It's like... To the people that would be interested in seeing a movie like Garden State is not saying anything new to them. Whereas the people for whom Garden State would say something new to them, they wouldn't be interested in Garden State to begin with.
Interesting. I will have to see this film.
Yeah.
It's on the top of my list. I'm dropping everything. I'm just kidding.
I must watch Garden State right now. Stop the episode.
No, I gotta finish season 2 of Marin. I've really come to like him, like his show anyway.
I gotta watch season 2 of True Detective, even though it sucks. But I want to be a part of the conversation about why it sucks and how it sucks.
Is it done?
Yeah, it's over. And
did it still suck?
Yeah, apparently it sucked.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I know, it's a real bummer, and I think maybe what we got to kind of wake up to is maybe that the first season of True Detective was not great, but it just kind of teased at not sucking for long enough that, you know, we got some gems out of it.
Interesting. That's another one I gotta jump on. I mean, everything I've heard about. It's weird. Everything I've heard about the new season of True Detective is like, all the performances are great. This episode's kind of boring. I'm gonna watch the next one though.
Yeah.
This isn't very good. I'm just gonna keep watching it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's sort of what it settled into. It's just everyone I know who was watching the show going like, man, this is a letdown that I'm going to continue devoting time to.
Yeah, I think that's just it, because it's like the first season of True Detective was a slow burn, so it's like the first season of True Detective was like, oh, this is a slow burn, how's this going to pan out? And then it only kind of half panned out.
Interesting.
And then the second season is like, everyone seems to have been like, oh, this isn't really great, but I'm going to wait for this to get good. And that's like, oh, the season's over and it didn't get good.
Yeah, most of the complaints I heard, at least early on, were people going, what is this building towards? We're discussing, like, highway planning?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then I saw, like, 5 minutes of an episode where Elizabeth Banks was, like, doing one of those knife practice things and getting ready for a crazy orgy party. So
all I know about the first season of True Detective is there was something involving a crow mask and a sex party and Colin Farrell like saying dialogue to some teacher's kid after, I think it was a teacher. Like, somebody screwed over Colin Farrell's kid at his school, so he went to the house of whoever it was, whether it was like another parent or a teacher or whatever, beats up the parent, and then the kid watches it and then says something like trying to intimidate people, but it sounds like a teenager wrote this and thought it sounded badass on paper.
Uh-oh.
It was one of those, you can write this shit, but you can't act it.
Dude. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Poor True D.
Poor True D. Poor Nick Pizzeria.
Yeah. Who's Nick Pizzeria?
Nick Pizzolatto, the writer, showrunner of True Detective.
Both seasons?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. and I wish I could remember the specific name to say his name, but the director of all 8 seasons of all 8 episodes of last season was
Cary Fukunaga.
Exactly. Yeah. And apparently there's like a character who's like a shitty director in season 2 of True Detective, and people are like, okay, Nick Pizzolatto is clearly trying to vent steam about some frustrations he had with Cary Fukunaga, which is kind of bullshit because Cary Fukunaga's direction is what made the first season. So I don't know. It's like we've all really enjoyed like a lot of great auteurist TV in the past few years.
Yeah.
But then stuff like this kind of comes back and bites you in the ass. And I don't know. It's like the thing about like thinking of things in a auteur way or not. It's like, I get it. Yes, film is a very collaborative medium, but it's like if I have to choose between a movie where it's designed by one guy with a lot of artistic intent or a bunch of guys sitting around a boardroom and, doing kind of like design by committee for the sake of, marketing reasons, I would rather go with the one guy running the ship as long as he's not an asshole.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. It's like we think of like we accept movies being done in like we accept movies or TV shows or any like filmic medium being kind of run in one of two directions, where it's like all handled by the studio or it's all handled by an auteurist director. And I feel like, and maybe that's why there's so many cool things going on in animation right now, because what I see in a lot of animated shows nowadays is there's a collaborative auteurism in a sense. Like BoJack is a really great show where it's like, you have Raphael Bob Waksberg as the showrunner on the writing side. Then you have Lisa Hannawalt, who's running the design and animation side of things. And then you have all these strong creative voices, but they're collaborative. And they're not unison, they're not all stuck in one person. It's like, it's not a matter of Lisa Hannawalt really wants to design the show so that it works to Raphael's, vision. It's the people working in animation and design and the people working in writing and story, they're all working together and coming to something that's kind of greater than themselves, and that's the work and that's the piece.
And that seems to be a sort of, I don't know the ins and outs, but that seems like a fortunate aspect of being with Netflix is like, it seems like Netflix acquires stuff and doesn't make heap tons of demands about like, we're going to come in and make this a Netflix show. This just seems like they find what they think will work and then order it.
Yeah, like, but then that was also, say, HBO's model, but I guess, things haven't panned out great in the long run with True Detective, where it had, this one guy at the helm.
Yeah.
Where there are flashes of brilliance and then things that just didn't work in season 2, apparently.
Okay. That's a bummer.
I don't know. I mean, I would like to... Because, like, if you chart the way in which like, American movies have kind of gone, it feels like there's this battle between these two opposing forces where it's director control versus studio control and how those things have panned out, where it's like, the 30s and 40s were all very studio control-y to a big extent. It was, the studio and the producers had these dictates and these demands as to what the movie was like and what the studio's, products were all like. And then you had, moving into, transitions, and then you had into the 60s and 70s where, the new Hollywood auteurist model was in effect, and it's like, oh, this is the new Scorsese movie, this is this is Hitchcock, and this is De Palma, and it's like, and Hitchcock becomes a character that everyone recognizes as being this artsy director guy, or this, not artsy, but this prominent very Napoleonic director guy. But then afterwards, the story comes out, it's like, oh yeah, that was to everyone else's expense, working on any project that Hitchcock was on.
it's like for whatever brilliance, a lot of people got shafted, and you know, a lot of people were
abused,
for not, you know, falling in line with the program, you know.
Yeah, but then it's like I would like to see. I mean, I would like to see us go into a mode of, you know, I guess collaborative auteurism, where people are like, oh man, it's this writer and this director and this actor, and together they're going to basically do like a super group.
Yeah. I mean, that seems also like a better recipe for more success, I almost feel like.
Yeah.
It's like if you take some really prominent people in different aspects of a thing, you know, that all bring something very strong, you know, to a storytelling, you know, scenario.
Like if I heard that, like for instance, if I heard that David Fincher was going to be directing a movie written by Charlie Kaufman,
that would be, I don't know what that movie would look like, but it would be super interesting.
Yeah, like that sounds like a pretty dope recipe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, or like the Coen brothers are going to be directing a Charlie Kaufman movie.
That would be great.
That sounds dope.
That I can, that sounds like a recipe for awesomeness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested.
Like I'm a big Don Hertzfeldt fan, but I understand what makes Don Hertzfeldt work is that he's the one-man band, but his projects are things that can come from a one-man band. Mm-hmm. You know, he does Don Hertzfeldt sets out to make a project. It's the kind of project that works being made by one person.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and I think that's something that's important to take into stock too, because it's like, you know, with movies and TV and stuff, you know, when you have studio versus director, that almost seems like, that does seem a bit too narrow anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's giving one guy the control versus giving like this select group of people whose job isn't to do the creative stuff anyway, the control. It's like, it seems like a spread would be a nicer, you know, way to go about it, because then you can.
I want to see like an A-team make a bunch of movies of just really cool people slapped together. Like, you know, Cloud Atlas I didn't see, and it got really high praise, but also really, you know, a lot of backlash, and it got a lot of guff. But it was also like Cloud Atlas. I'd be really interested to sit down and see, because that's the Wachowskis and Tom Tykwer, which is, you know, which is an interesting recipe. Mm. So,
I don't. Oh, Tom Tykwer did
Run Lola Run.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
See, that's I always heard. The thing I heard most about Cloud Atlas was that it was like, this has great elements, and it was one of those like glorious failure movies where it's like it doesn't achieve
what it set out to do.
What it sets out to do, but there is a lot of worth and you know, investment here. So like, you know, I mean, you always know a couple people who are like, yeah, fuck that. But like, that was the sort of the most consistent thing I heard about that movie was like, yeah, it doesn't always come together, but there are some great things about it, and we're glad it's here.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of what everybody I sort of spoke to about it said.
Yeah, I got Santa to actually sit down and see Cloud Atlas.
Yeah, me too. It always seemed like an interesting experiment anyway.
Yeah.
And all that Asian makeup.
Yeah.
But
all that. Yeah.
Well, TV is headed in an interesting direction, it seems like, and I feel like there are bubbles forming, and I'm wondering which of them are going to burst. Because, you know, we seem like now more and more in America, we're starting to embrace the miniseries. Because, you know, like in Britain, it seems like they've already...
Yeah, most of their programming that becomes high profile, they're miniseries.
Yeah, or you know, only do a few seasons and then that's it, you know? And so I feel like we're finally starting to embrace the miniseries, which is a good thing. Like True Detective on paper was like, oh, cool, you got a couple of, you know, actors that we're not sort of accustomed to seeing in this kind of a thing, and you know, you know, sort of a taut mystery with, you know, jumps in time and whatever.
Yeah.
again, I still have to watch season 1. It's on my list. But and then moving into the second season, it's like, okay, now we've got a whole different sort of cast of interesting people to be in a show like this, and another story, but it doesn't have to be bound to the same
cinematic universe.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I like that as a concept, and I hope we can be wise with it.
Yeah.
It's like, I hope Fargo works out, and then Fargo kind of falls under a different bubble. It's I guess it'd be more of like a Venn diagram, because now they're taking movies and turning them into shows.
Yeah.
And we've proven from the onset of that can work. It's like Bates Motel, I've heard, at least averages out to like, this is pretty good. It seems like people like it. Hannibal, people go nuts for Hannibal.
Hannibal had a really devoted fan base, and I thought it was a really cool show. But what was interesting about Hannibal, it's like seeing just how much the show had to, in a sense, compromise because it's on network TV. And granted, they got away with a lot of intelligent stuff that you don't see on network TV, and they got away with a lot of graphic stuff that you don't see on network TV.
Yeah.
But then it's like the first season or so, there was all this procedural stuff, and I just feel like this movie does not need to be a forensic procedural show.
Yeah.
Like, you have something way more intelligent than the forensic procedural stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And eventually that stuff kind of fell by the wayside, and I got to catch up on season 3 and see where it develops. But it's like, it's been hard to want to jump into it knowing that the show's been canceled,
knowing that the demise is near.
Yeah.
And the episodes are finite.
Yeah.
But even so, and it seems like they sort of sorted that out as this, I gotta imagine, at least in the early stages, approaching like, we're turning a movie, or in that case also books, into a TV series. Like, it's gotta be kind of awkward, especially when network is involved.
Yeah.
And I really hope this is not a true rumor. I wonder, because all of this kind of news is always subject to, like, it was just a joke article or something. But I saw an article today that I'm not... if it's a joke, I'm not aware, but I saw an article today that said they're going to make a Friday the 13th TV series on, like, Fox or something.
What, say again?
No, the CW. Yeah, I read an article today. The CW is going to make a Friday the 13th series.
Yeah.
Which just seems like a terrible... It's like when they tried a different thing, because it was like a more semi-original idea, but it's like when they tried to do the Playboy Club on ABC. It's like... Yeah, you can't, like, why would you make Jason on network television? You can't do the stuff that makes that thing what it is.
Yeah.
Like, if you were going to screen one of these movies on a Saturday night, it would be super edited for TV, and now you're going to do a network show about Jason Voorhees. It's like, it seems so weird.
It seems like someone had the idea of, oh, people like Friday the 13th, let's make a property out of that, because it's got built-in, brand recognition, it's got built-in audience, but then it's like... Well,
and it's also searching for how to continue, it seems like.
Yeah, but it's
getting
also...
that next movie has been an ordeal.
Yeah, they went to space, for God's sake.
They did go to space. But
then it's also like, it feels like whoever had that idea did not take into account... Yeah, really, the reason why people are into Friday the 13th is because they want to see interesting... They want to see kills. They want
to see Jason and graphic kills.
Yeah.
And that's like...
And sexy teens.
Yeah, it's
played by people in their late 20s.
And every one of those movies pretty much has, like, some sort of sex scene, to get your TNA quotient. It's like, this doesn't... FX... Or not FX. Stars has Evil Dead. That makes sense, because Stars doesn't have those ratings... they have those standards restrictions.
And it also... There's... What people want out of Evil Dead are things like, the humor and continuing with the Ash character. Like... for instance, like, Army of Darkness in the Evil Dead trilogy is actually kind of episodic.
Yeah. They all are, in a way, because Evil Dead 2 almost functions in a way as a remake or a do-over.
Yeah, so it's like, the Evil Dead series has always been kind of episodic, so to turn it into a TV show makes sense, because it's not like
I mean, this I don't know if I've done. I feel like I've done this spiel before, but for instance, like, you know why the Shrek sequels were never that great?
Pourquoi?
Because basically, if you take a look at the original Shrek movie, that movie is very tightly structured and very tightly wound to be about, you know, and even in the days of Chris Farley being the main actor voicing Shrek, because now that early demo reel came out of Chris Farley doing some voice acting for Shrek, even that far back, the plan was the story is about this ogre who is, you know, a monster who, you know, felt hurt and became sequestered in his isolation and thought that he wanted to be, you know, in isolation, became this misanthrope, and what he has to do, his whole arc is he has to learn to be vulnerable and let love in and trust people and accept himself. Like, there's a very specific arc to the character of Shrek in the movie Shrek. But then once you finish that arc, it's like, no, the character's development is done. To do another Shrek movie is to just retread water.
Yeah.
You know, it's just to tread water. It's to retread old ground. So it's like, you know, the Shrek sequels are like, now Shrek is a combination of just a wacky sitcom dad and, you know, a guy going through, oh, I'm an ogre, I'm a freak, people don't... You know, it's like it's almost like every Shrek sequel had to redo, oh, well, now there's somebody new who doesn't accept Shrek for being an ogre.
So you just find different ways of rehashing the same old problem.
Yeah, which, you know, it doesn't work, because then you have a character that's kind of in stasis and people get tired of it. Whereas, say, Ash in the Evil Dead, Ash in the Evil Dead has, throughout the movies, always been getting sucked into a new Deadite problem that he's had to, like, outwit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, personality-wise, he's kind of always been the same guy. And that seems like a joke that they're playing on. Like, he's still working at S-Mart, even though he's in his 50s or 60s.
Yeah, exactly. It's been 30 years, but he's still... I think they said he's even still a stock boy. He has the same job. Like, and
so they're riffing on the fact that, no, people... What makes Ash kind of a fun character is not necessarily Ash being a guy that's developing. It's Ash being a guy who's stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
And having to deal with shit changing around him.
And they've built, you know, loose rules and you know, the ability for change into that series, because every movie is a different kind of movie in a way. It's like the first one is a very lo-fi, kind of jarring, zany, but not entirely intentionally zany, you know, horror film. And then the second one has a lot of that, like, zany comedy, but with some, you know, still horror stuff. That one's like the truest blend of horror and comedy. And then the third one is, you know, just
a medieval supernatural action thing,
action comedy fantasy thing, and
that also gets zany.
And now in the new one, in the show at least, they're sort of, it seems like they're almost crashing some of the elements of the remake into wherever Army of Darkness left off. So they're always sort of, Evil Dead has had many faces over time, and that helps this. Yeah. You know, whereas Jason's Jason is Jason forever. Like
Jason has never been a character. Jason is just kind of the thing.
Yeah, and even when they remade the movie in 2009 and they gave him some different attributes, like now he can run, just because we never did that before. Like, you know, every actor brings a posture and a personality.
Now he can fly. Now he's in space.
Yeah, it's like every actor who dons the mask and picks up the machete, you know, brings a certain something, but Jason is Jason, the kills. You know, it's like you don't have that potential for change as much, and ultimately, like, this doesn't seem. This is a very worrisome idea to me. Not that I'm like losing sleep. Jason is fun to me, but it's not my favorite.
And it's also, I mean, out of all the big slasher franchises, Jason is the one that's always been the same, and Jason has always been the one that's almost, in a sense, kind of been the most pure and simple version of that. Because, you know, it's like Michael Myers in the original Halloween. It's, you know, it's got this whole. What made the original Halloween so interesting was that it was all about kind of a more psychological way of making you scared. It played with shadows. It didn't show blood. It didn't show gore. It was You know, it was about just the suspense and the raw suspense of it.
Well, yeah, it was closer to home because it's like you don't see, you know, mangled bodies and gore on a daily basis, so it plays on the things that you are familiar with.
And the main character of the Halloween franchise is Michael's sister, so it's like you know, it does feel like literally closer to home.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Freddy Krueger has got like a connection to the kids he haunts. You know, they're the kids of the parents who vigilante killed him, and then they have the surrealist thing because, like, you know, because Freddy comes to you in your dreams, you know, crazy shit can go down. And beyond that, it's like, you know, Freddy is just kind of an interesting, wisecracky character.
He becomes over time. Like, he's always kind of, but he doesn't get like, hey,
until later on.
Yeah, like, it starts happening in 3, but it still works in 3, and then in 4, it's like, this is a bit too much now.
Yeah, and tone it down.
Yeah, like, calm down. And I mean, that's the thing, too, you, like, comparing those 3 is like...
But then it's like, you come to Friday the 13th, it's just like, no, just Jason, he's mute, and he shows up, and he kills you, and it's gruesome, and teenagers with the titties.
Yeah, and there are like a couple connective threads between a few of the movies, because, you know, you have like Tommy Jarvis, who's a character, and at least 3 of them, except the nature of his character completely changes for one of them. Well, kind of for all of them, but very much for one of them. And they just sort of ignore that and move on. Michael's the only one that seems to... They always try to sort of continue a story, and those are the ones that always remain serious. It's like Jason gets... They become, you know, kind of zany and fun after a while. And, you know, 6 has always been my favorite because it embraces the humor in the most succinct way. But, yeah, it's just like as a network television show, it just seems like I don't know what you're thinking. Like, I see how Scream... I haven't seen any of Scream, and I've heard... Most of the people I know have seen it, because nobody was, like, thrilled by the teasers, but most people I know have seen a few episodes are like, oh, this is alright, you know? And that makes sense to me. Like, yeah, Scream on MTV, sure. Like, I get that. Yeah. And they can probably do that, but...
They can do cable stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they might not be able to give you everything, but they can probably give you enough. Whereas the CW... Nothing against them, but I don't think they can give us what Jason movies, like what people go to those movies for.
Yeah, know? Like no one goes to a Friday the 13th movie to get involved and engrossed in the drama of the teenagers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the teenagers are supposed to be dead within, you know, a few minutes.
Yeah, and it's like the best characters in those movies inevitably end up being the ones who are written amusingly colorful. Yeah, just enough so that the wallpaper is fun before the wallpaper is dead. It's like, you know, it's like no one's hyper interested in a serious romance story or you know, any number of things. It's like that again. That's what I liked about 6 was like every character who shows up to add to the body count is a character, has some interesting, colorful dialogue, but will be dead soon, and we all are clear. You know. It's no more or less than it has to be, so I just can't see this. And hearing all the other things they've gone through, it's like it seemed like they had some better ideas.
I just thought of something.
Like,
I would want to see a teen slasher movie where 2 teenagers go off into another room to have sex, and while they're in that room having sex, the killer ends up like taking out all of their friends who aren't having sex. And so the 2 kids that did have sex are the ones who survived.
The only way to stay safe is to be fucking.
Yeah.
Quick! We have to fuck! Why? He's in the building!
And it comes to that point where it's like the killer, like they're like furiously like fear fucking. The serial killer comes to the room, sees them boning, and then just gets really awkward and comfortable and kind of shifts his weight and just backs out of the room and closes the door.
It's just really uncomfortable with nudity. Yeah. There's an episode of Rick and Morty that has they're being experimented on by these aliens, and the only way for them to get like privacy enough to plan some kind of escape is to get naked. Because,
I remember this. David Cross is the head of the aliens.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like these brilliant aliens, except like they're just really uncomfortable about nudity.
Yeah.
So they have to get naked all the time.
I feel like that is Justin Roiland trying to work in the premise of his original Doc and Marty.
Yeah.
That became Rick and Morty. Because in the original Doc and Marty short, that became Rick and Morty. It's just Justin Roiland doing Doc Brown and Marty McFly from Back to the Future, where there are time problems and they're all solved by Doc saying, "You gotta lick my balls, Marty," and Marty doing it, and then that just fixes the time problem. And you can look this up, the Real Adventures of Doc and Marty, and that is basically the pilot to Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
It's just Marty McFly licking Doc Brown's balls. And the fucked up thing is it works. Like, every time problem instantly fades away when Marty licks Doc's balls.
Yeah, that was a very interesting experience, just to be like, because at first you kind of feel gross and uncomfortable because he's like, oh, he's licking this old man's nuts. Wait, it's working though. It's working. Oh shit! No, keep it up.
Exactly.
It's that simple twist of like, oh, what a lascivious but it works.
Yeah. It's like, well, that's horrible. Because, I mean, that is a joke. That's like a lame-ass joke that a Family Guy episode would pull, where it's like, there's a problem and an old man says, oh, to solve the problem, you just gotta lick my balls. But then it doubles back. It's like, no, it actually works.
That was the solution.
Yeah, that was the actual solution to the problem the whole time. For no rhyme or reason, it just actually fixed everything.
I gotta start season 3 of Rick and Morty. Or season 2.
Season 2.
Sorry, they just greenlit season 3.
Yeah.
I gotta start season 2.
Yeah.
I quite liked the Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
That I saw.
I gotta get into watching Rick and Morty.
Hey folks, we gotta take a dank ass break.
A dank ass break.
But we'll be back for more in part 2.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Tonight's sponsor is Terroween's Spooky Days.
Yet again. Hey folks, do you like to be afraid of things? Of course you do. Everyone loves to be in terror.
And everybody also loves to spooky.
Yeah.
And you know where is the best place to spooky?
Terroween Spooky Days, wherever it may be.
If you can find Terroween Spooky Days, it's the best place to spooky in the Northern Hemisphere, easily.
Yeah, it's got...
if it's, in fact, in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, it may be like Brigadoon, where it just kind of shows up somewhere randomly every 100 years.
Terroween Spooky Days is a lot like Narnia. It's like you can only find it when you're not looking for it, and it's kind of inconvenient for you to have found it.
Are those Narnia rules?
Kind of, yeah.
Well,
doesn't Narnia only appear in the cupboard if you... Or maybe it's only when you need it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know rules of shit. But anyway, Terroween Spooky Days.
Terroween Spooky Days, they have spiders and ghosts and meats on hook. They got a bathroom now.
They do have a bathroom. I think it's just a porta potty. I don't think they have plumbing yet.
There was a photo of it.
There's a photograph of the bathroom.
Yeah.
So, give some love to our sponsor, and we will see you next time for part 2
of the Dank Ass Grab Bag.
Of the Dank Ass Grab Bag Old Medicine Comedy Hour. Later on.